Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Furr, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family. I'm cloud hired.
So, I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Welcome everyone. Today Alonzo and I are here to help you build your best technology career. Maybe you desire to be a cloud architect or a cloud engineer or a network engineer or a network architect or an enterprise architect, or you're looking to increase your salary in tech. We're here to help you with that. My name's Mike. I'm the CEO of Go Cloud Careers. I've been in tech for almost 30 years now, but I'm going to say 25 because it feels a little better. And I've been helping people just like you get their first tech job, get promoted in tech, negotiate a $100,000 raise, a big stock grant from their employers. And I want to assist you in building a career. You know, when I started my career, I can tell you what I did. I went and got all these certifications, took all these boot camps, and at the end of the day, nobody cared. And then I spoke to recruiters and I spoke to some hiring managers, and they gave me a list of exactly what employers dreamed about. Spent a couple months doing that. Poof! I had a great tech job. Started at the top, not the bottom, and you can too. So that's why we're here. We're here to provide guidance. So if you don't know the difference between a cloud architect and a cloud engineer, and 90% of the community gets that confused, you're here for the right place. They'll tell you the difference. If you want to know the skills you need for a career, we'll talk about it. We can talk about skills versus certification. We can talk about things to increase your salary. We can talk about ways to get anywhere you need. I've spoken to thousands of hiring managers, thousands of tech recruiters, thousands of executives at tech companies to know exactly what they want. And we apply that with our clients every single day to get them the best jobs anywhere in the world. And our clients work at AWS, at Apple, at Cisco, at IBM, at Microsoft, at Deloitte, Accenture, KPMG, Capgemini, you name it, PricewaterhouseCoopers, British Broadcasting Company, JP Morgan Chase, Barclays Bank, and most of them came to us with no background. And you can do it too. And they're not there as junior techs, they're there as cloud architects, solutions architects, and any of you, anywhere, can have any career you want. I mean it. Any of you can do anything you want, as long as you develop the right set of skills and follow the right plan. So that's why we're here. I don't want you doing what I did, where I asked other people that were literally didn't know either. And we all got together. I think I need to learn this. No, we didn't. I asked the people that are there. So that's why we're here. So come today, ask us your questions so we can help you build an elite cloud computing, networking, or even an enterprise architect career, because those are the things we typically focus on. We also do a tremendous amount of work with artificial intelligence as well. But, cloud architecture is artificial intelligence architecture. We've been working with artificial intelligence for more than 2 decades now. At least I have been. And whether they were in a data center, whether in the cloud, it's really the same thing. It's the same NVIDIA GPUs for the most part. It's the same machine learning libraries for the most part. It's just where it's there. So ask us your questions. My team would be frustrated with me if I didn't remind you that we have a 40% off Black Friday sale right now on every product we have. Cloud Architect Career Development Program, Elite Cloud Architect Program, Tech Interview Programs, Tech Leadership Programs, and even in the non-live version. So I'll tell you that from where you're at. And we'll help you. Oh, and I see somebody that wants to go from landscape architect to cloud architect. And I'm going to talk to you about Jermaine, wonderful student of ours who went from landscaping to becoming an enterprise architect as his first tech job. So we can help you get there too. So the point is ask us your questions so we can help you. Before you, please fill up the chat box with questions on the platform so we can assist. In the meantime, I'm going to have Alonzo say hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are excited as always to please, think about how you want to get to becoming a cloud architect. And underlining and understanding, you may want to be a cloud networking, a cloud security, AI. All of that is intertwined into what cloud architect responsibilities are. You have to understand the foundations of the tech and understand that the tech is nothing more than a large, awesome toolbox of innovation that you can use to architect solutions for businesses. We focus on the business side of it, not the tech. Everyone thinks that the business should contour itself around the technology. It could be a shiny piece of new tech. It could be anything. However, you have to use these tools to understand the benefits of how what the business is and how you can transform that business. The tech is for the business, not the other way around. And this is where you're going to learn how to do these things. You're going to learn about what it means to be a cloud architect, what the fundamentals are, how you're going to be able to move from one point to the next. And you're going to learn these things with us today. So we're excited to answer any questions that you may have. Don't worry about if you think it's too simplistic or make these general assumptions that we think you should know. When I started my cloud journey, one of the things that I found was very frustrating is that no matter what hyperscaler, aka cloud service provider that I went with, there was no 0 point of entry. It was always an assumption that I had a engineering or developer background. But here, it doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter what competency that you had prior. You can learn this here with us today.
So I think there's a question or two or a comment that we'll talk about. We'll take it from there. Satish, welcome. So happy you're here. Yes, we are live. We come to you live several times a week. I do it for the following reasons. I want everyone to have an elite cloud architect career or cloud computing career, whatever career they want. Truth be told, I have all these private consults that are aligned for me by my team. We charge $1,200 an hour for a consult, and there's now a 23.5-week wait for people to speak to me. So I try to be online twice per week for free to help all of you build the career. You know, I've been known all over the world for what I've done. I've been in over 200 magazines, tech magazines, everything from Forbes to tech magazines. So, you know, on based on kind of things we do. So I want to help you. So welcome, Satish. Yes, we are live. And let's go to that landscape architect question next. Remo.
Okay, this is from Remo. I want to go from landscape architect to cloud architect.
Well, Remo, let's talk about our student Jermaine, who did just like you. Jermaine wasn't exactly a landscape architect. He was actually selling landscaping gears. He's a funny guy. He's from Jamaica. He's got a great attitude, energy, and enthusiasm. And Jermaine came to us and said, I want to be a cloud architect or an enterprise architect. And I said, Jermaine, we're going to help you. Jermaine came to us. We taught him what the cloud is, and the cloud is just somebody else's network in a data center. We taught him all the networking, all the data center, all the cloud technologies that he needed to learn. We taught him the business acumen, the leadership, the sales, the executive presence, the CXO relevancy, the ability to negotiate a big deal, the ability to interview for any job he wanted. And guess what? He got himself a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful enterprise architect job, which is one level above the cloud architect in most cases, or solution architect. It pays more and it's an even better job. He's a great, great, great guy. Personally, I used to practice internal medicine. I'm a nurse practitioner. And I went over to Tech 2. And you can do it. It's all about getting the right. Now, Remo, here's the thing to remember. We cloud architects are not hands-on. We don't code. We don't configure. We don't touch Terraform. We don't touch Linux. We don't do any of it. In a true form of a landscape architect, where the architect designs the system and they determine, you know, what kind of trees need to be there, what kind of fountains need to be there, what kind of flowers are going to be there, do we need gazebos and all these other kind of things, and then landscapers and construction crews go build it. Well, that's the same job for the architect. We design it, we sell it, present it, write it up, negotiate it, and then we move on to the next architecture project. And a team of engineers swoops in and builds it the same way those landscapers would build some of the things that you actually described to do. So welcome. It's a great career. I love it. It's the best job I ever had, and I highly recommend it. Come tomorrow if you desire, and we're going to tell you how to get your first cloud architect job on our completely free webinar from 1 to 3 p.m. And while we're at it, Remo, we have a completely free ebook that'll tell you the skills you need to become a cloud architect. Tyrone, I'll pop a link to that, along with the free webinar tomorrow that'll be there. And on this free webinar, Rima, we'll talk face-to-face if you want. You can ask me questions. I can interview you and assess your strengths, weaknesses, and figure out what's the best path for you. And I'm happy to do so, and it's all free. So join us tomorrow.
From Pauline, is it better to become a cloud architect than a solutions architect?
It is better to be a cloud architect than a solutions architect. Pauline, let me explain the difference to you. A solution architect works for AWS and sells AWS stuff, or they work for Microsoft and they sell Microsoft stuff, or they work for Cisco and they design, present, and sell Cisco stuff, or they work at NVIDIA and they sell NVIDIA stuff. Now, Pauline, the reason I would tell you not to waste your time with the solution architect career and to train for the cloud architect career is 98% of all organizations use more than one cloud. I'm going to say it again. 98% of organizations use more than one cloud. And if you only know Azure, or you only know AWS, and you're taking all their certifications, use my stuff, use my stuff, use my stuff, you run into two problems. One is you architect very bad things. For example, if I were to use AWS DynamoDB in a multi-cloud environment, I really troubled my customer long-term in the future. They're not going to be able to use a NoSQL database on 3 clouds, and everybody uses multiple clouds. So if I swap out that proprietary thing that's taught in a certification with Apache Cassandra or MongoDB, I can have them in all clouds. So when you're a cloud architect, you know which decisions to use, which open standards. Now, Pauline, I'd also give you another question. Would you consider learning how to drive a Toyota, or would you consider learning how to drive a car? If you know how to use a Toyota, And you were taught proprietary names like a solution architect. Let's call this the elastic vector rotational changer. Let's call the thing that you push down the elastic potentiometer. And let's take your turn signals and call them an elastic signal directional notifier. And that's all you knew. And you learned those silly vocabulary terms that the marketing people spent millions of dollars on. Guess what? You'll only know something, and your level of employability will be nothing. But if you learn that this is a steering wheel, and you use common language, and you know this is an accelerator, and this is a brake, and this is a turn signal, if you're in the UK, you're driving, maybe on the different side of the road. If you're in South Africa, you're still driving on either side of the road. If you're in my home in Greece, you're still driving. And it doesn't matter if it's a Mercedes, a Toyota, a Honda, a Hyundai, or any other car. You're going to be able to drive it. So you always want to be a cloud architect. Now, I train tremendous number of cloud architects, and many of them go on to work as solution architects at AWS or Azure or Google, and that's fine. But I want to have the skills to drive all cars. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I recommend being a cloud architect. Our students do very financially well being cloud architects, and some of them take solution architect jobs. See, a cloud architect can work as a solution architect or a cloud architect. But a solution architect, if they only know proprietary silly names, and they only know how to use one cloud provider, they don't know which services not to use because they're going to lock their clients into problems, and they're not going to be able to design the multi-cloud architectures. Now, Pauline, we're doing a lot of private clouds right now because they're cheaper, faster, higher performance, and more secure than the public clouds. So now you need to know Nutanix and OpenStack. Of course, we teach this to our students because you got to be able to work with it all. So that's why we create cloud architects and not solution architects. Everyone, we can go to the next one. And please, everyone, ask us your questions. We still want to help you.
Okay, this is from Pauline again, Mike. Sometimes I feel I need to know so much before applying for jobs. No matter how much I already know, I feel like it's not enough. That won't go away.
Pauline, let's talk about it. The average cloud architect earns $237,000 per year, which means if somebody's study plan is something like an AWS Solutions Architect Professional, they're never going to get hired because that doesn't even cover 5% of the career. When you have a career like the cloud architect that pays as much as a physician, and a principal architect earns about $500,000 a year, which is more than the average physician, you have to know something. And that's why our training is a 700-hour training program. And the reason we got it down to 700 hours of knowledge that we're able to train is as follows. We took all the stuff you need and got rid of all that extra stuff that you're never going to touch in your life as an architect. And we were able to compress it to 700 hours. But understand that a job that pays a lot has some real requirements that are a lot. And that's really important. There is so much to know. And if you try to become an architect on your own, you're going to end up learning engineering and configuring, and that's why you're going to be stuck. But yes, you can do it. I know you can do it. Daniel Bosu didn't graduate high school, and he got hired by JP Morgan Chase. Coyote is a student of ours, got hired by Amazon completing college after our training program. Ivan Tamba got hired by AWS before he even graduated college, and he asked him, would you wait 6 months for me to graduate college? Because I spent 3 years at Georgia Tech while working as a waiter, and they waited for him to hire him because he was so good. Jeffrey West was one of our students, got hired by Caliant. He was doing some kind of geospatial imaging, had nothing to do with cloud, nothing to do with coding, networking, data centers, none of it. Ballinder was a stay-at-home mom before we got her hired at Microsoft. Jennifer Ema was a mental health tech hired by JP Morgan Chase. While we're at it, so was Daniel Bosa, who didn't graduate high school. And Wallace Agana got hired by them too as an enterprise architect, which is even bigger. Al Legister recently got hired as Deloitte as a senior solution architect as his first tech job in the world. And I could do this all day, Pauline. And I love doing it because I love watching my students get hired. You can do it, Pauline. Just get the right training and the right knowledge and there. But don't go on an interview until you're ready. Because what's going to happen is you apply for a job, you're not ready for the job, and then poof, here's what happens. You go on an interview and they put a big X next to your name that says don't talk to again, don't hire. And then you burn all these good companies, and you don't want to do that. So yes, there are a lot of things that you need to know. But if you know them, you'll be great. So please come to that How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar. Please download that free list, and those are the things you need to understand. This is what hiring managers tell us. This is what the executives of these companies tell us they need. And this is what gets our students hired almost every day of the week. So you can do it. You can, but yes, there are very stringent requirements for what you need to know. Business acumen. Why? Because the architect is designing a solution to improve business performance. Leadership skills. Why? It's like the African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In every architecture, I lead typically 15 to 50 architects and engineers that are going to help me design the thing. Sales. As an architect, you get paid for what you sell. And the more you sell, the greater your salary. And I'll give you some examples to show you. But sales, not your experience, your sales skills and your business acumen determine what somebody's willing to pay you. Because if you bring in money, they can afford to pay you anything. So this is a principal architect job. As you can get this straight from Glassdoor. I was a principal architect in less than 2 years. With the right training and studying, you could be too. So you get your first job. A couple of years later, you move into one of these roles. The average pay is $379. But look, $300 to $495 is the salary range. So sales skills. You need sales to get hired. You got to sell the manager to hire you, especially when you lack experience. And if you want to earn anything and keep your job, you got to be able to sell. But it's not just Microsoft. Here's AWS. They pay a little less, but they still pay well. Average salary is $372 for a principal architect, and I was a principal architect in 2 years, with a salary range of $291 to $491. Wait, that's $200,000. Learn to sell and develop your business acumen and develop your interview capability. Now, Google pays more. I recently had somebody get a job, but it was for $409 there. But they weren't a principal architect, but they were a great cloud architect. And here you can see the average pay is about $508. This goes plus or minus, $30,000, $40,000 in like Google One. The other ones are pretty stable. But note the pay range is $394 to $677. Wait, that's almost $400,000 between the top and bottom paid person. What's it all come down to? How good are you at sales? So develop your business acumen, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your executive presence, your communication skills, your presentation skills. Then develop your networking, data center, and cloud design skills, and you can have any job you want. So now you know. Please come to the webinar tomorrow. It's free. We can have a face-to-face conversation. I can talk to you. I can even give you a mini interview and assess you, by the way. And I'd be honored to do so. And download that free guide. And we'll see you there. Please ask more questions. I want to help.
Back to Remo, Mike. I own my own business, so I design and build and manage contractors. Took a sales engineering course, but they lack some structure and info to get hired. I do have an associate's degree in CS. Not sure what that means, but perhaps it might be computer science.
Remo, I've seen the sales engineering courses out there, and they don't teach sales, and they don't teach engineering. I haven't quite figured out what they're taught by. So, here's how I learned sales. I followed sales executives that earned $1 million a year selling tech. And I asked them. I asked VPs of sales, directors of sales. I watched them. I worked with them, and I asked questions. Then I took sales training. And yes, I spent a small time as a sales engineer and sold about 3 to 5 times the average sales engineer, and it took good care of me. I bought my vacation homes and things with it. But the point is you can do it, and you can get there. But most of these programs get too geeky. They focus too much on the tech. And then they try to create a sales engineer, and they don't teach business acumen. Okay. So when I deal with someone, and a company's weighted average cost of capital is 6.5%, and they can go to the cloud, and now you're a sales engineer or an architect, and you've got to help build the business case, and you don't have that business acumen, you're not hireable. If they're not teaching you how to give a presentation both on camera and off camera, and teaching your posture, for example, if you were to say, "Hi, I'm Mike Gibbs," nobody's going to be interested. But if you say, "Hi, I'm Mike Gibbs," now, to be fair, I took thousands and thousands of dollars of presentation training, over $20,000, and I work as a presentation skills coach, and I give that stuff to my students, but you'll get there. The degrees are irrelevant. Nobody cares. Daniel Bosu didn't graduate high school, and not only did he get a great job, employers would fight for him because he's so good. Actually, I love the kid. Almost wish he was my own son so much, because the way he came in, the way we worked with me, and he even graduated and got a couple of cats like me and a brand new beautiful place in Chicago, and I'm so proud of the guy. He's incredible. But the point is you can do it too. It has nothing to do with your degrees. I've got lots of people with a high school diploma getting great jobs, and you can do it. You just have to have the right set of skills. If I trained on grass cutting, for example, and I trained on pool cleaning, I wouldn't be able to design a landscape architecture and know what it needs to look like and know how to manage the contractors. That just wouldn't be the kind of thing that I would need to know. I'd know how to do. I could study landscape architecture. I could go observe different things throughout the world. I could work with building architects and other people that could talk about waterfalls and other things. I could learn from other landscape architects, and then I could do the job. But you'll get there, Remo. I promise you. Get the right training, learn the right things, and you will be fantastic. And I see this every single day. You'll be fine. So before we go to the next question, ask these questions. Alonzo and I have crazy days. The media already reached out to me. And if I have questions, I will stick around and I'll tell them to wait a little bit. But if not, Alonzo and I have some chaotic days. I see some questions. So if you want our help, ask. We are free right now instead of $1,200 an hour. So please ask us your questions so we can assist you.
Okay, Mike, from Victor. I have a background knowledge in enterprise security and currently doing my master's in cybersecurity. What are my chances of migrating to cybersecurity architect and the necessary skills I need?
Victor, there's 100% chance that if you get the right training, the right education, you'd be okay. Now, a master's degree in cybersecurity is not going to teach you anything about cybersecurity, and it's not going to help your architecture career. If you did a master's in business, that would be helpful for you. So architecture is about the design. So when I think of a security architecture, I think about the value of the assets that I'm protecting. I think about the intellectual property of the organization. I think about the brand of the organization. I think about the entry and exit points of the organization. I think about what services need to be exposed to the public. I think about how to design my demilitarized zones. I think about the layers of next generation firewalls that I might use. I think about the VPN concentrators for remote access that I might use. I think about the IDS, IPS systems that might need. I think about all the data loss prevention strategies that we need. I think about the security event correlation monitoring. I think about how the systems are going to be hardened that people are using, what kind of endpoint protection is going to be needed in all my systems. I think about my messages and do they need to be encrypted, for example, whether I encrypt my storage or I encrypt my network. I think about limiting routing information to make sure that only the people that need access to something even have the reachability to it. I think about what kind of training needs to occur for the employees of the staff. I think about, walking in there and pretending to be Donald Duck and saying if security will let me in. I think about the social engineering options I have to try and see the weaknesses in the security. I think about writing a security policy. I think about the education that I need to do of the people. Those are your skills. And then, of course, you need to understand how to do it in the data center, how to do it in the cloud, identity and access management systems, and how to design them so they scale, ways to use federated identities with identity providers. And Victor, William, you get that, you will get a great job. And it will be a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic job. It'll be fantastic. But you're not going to get that in the master's degree for cybersecurity. You're going to have to learn security, and you won't learn it in school. I wish it was true. I retrain people with master's degrees in cloud computing every day, master's degrees in cybersecurity, PhDs in cybersecurity, and they still don't know security. And here's why. I hate to say it. Those of us that have designed these systems typically don't work at universities. Now, here's what I love universities for, Victor. And they are going to teach you some valuable skills. The writing skills are great. You typically do that in a graduate degree. They're great. The knowing how to learn and how to study, great. You'll do that in a master's degree. I love it. Learning how to cite information scientifically, again, I love it. You won't use it in a paper. You'll use something different than the APA format, but still, I love it. It's great. So I encourage education. Now, if you just started and have the ability to switch your master's in cybersecurity to a master's in business, that's great. That is the architect degree. Now, I know plenty of people that didn't graduate college that still get architects. In fact, IBM's Jiminy Romney, I think she just retired as their CEO, said, I don't care about degrees anymore. I care about functional skills. She said IBM hires on skills. We're done with the days where we hire on degrees. Now, Victor, I've got multiple advanced degrees. I've done 2 MBAs. I completed one and got 3/4 of the way through another one and got a job that was so high paying. It was an offer you couldn't refuse, like they would say in a mobster movie. And I literally remember getting an offer and, it was close to $200,000 a year 20 years ago. And I was like, well, I could live in Philadelphia and finish this MBA program, or I could put 100% of my effort and go work on Wall Street with the opportunity that I had in networking. So I took it, and I enjoyed it, and it changed my life. And then fast forward 10 years later, I was like, I really wish I finished that MBA. And I called the university, and they were like, it's over 5 years. So I started another university and finished it. I also have another advanced degree in nursing as a nurse practitioner, and I practiced internal medicine. So it's good that you have them. I have them too. I will tell you the MBA is very valuable. I will tell you, just make sure that if you're going to school, you learn all the other stuff that matters. Learn the business acumen they won't teach you there, but get that MBA level business acumen. Get that leadership skills. Get those sales skills. Get that executive presence. Get that negotiation skills. Work on your emotional intelligence and your finesse. And you will have a career like you can't even imagine. You can't even dream of how good this is. In fact, I remember when I got my first big, great tech job, and I tried to tell my Greek family what I did. And they're like, what do you do? And I said, I design technology solutions for business. They're like, give me an example. And I said, well, we have to deal with our routers and switches to get the servers plugged into the system. We have to deal with our servers, which are providing the compute. We have to deal with the storage area networks. And then they got a headache. And then they're like, okay, thanks. I can't figure it out. And then at one point, when I moved into an architecture role, like, what do you do, Mike? And I said, well, I've been playing a lot of golf. I've been buying a lot of dinners and drinks for people. I've been entertaining clients, and I give presentations, and I write white papers called thought leadership documents. And they're like, no, seriously, what do you do? I'm like, well, this year I've written 6 documents, 6 paid papers. I gave 253 presentations, and I've schmoozed a lot and spent $100,000 on the corporate credit card buying lunch and dinners and things for clients. And they're like, no, seriously. I'm like, no, that's my job. You want to see my credit card receipts? And they looked at it and they laughed. So yes, wonderful, but understand this is a business job. This is a finesse job. We are solving business problems with technology, and you have to be able to run that business analysis. So the chances of you getting a great job, Victor William, are 100%. If you do the right effort, well, 99.9%, because I never say 100%. But they're that great if you get the right skill set. But you're going to need architecture training, and you're not going to get taught that in a master's degree.
From Remo again, thank you for all your insight, Mike. What's the percentage of your students that he had hired when they finished the course?
Remo, our students stay in the program until the day they are hired. So it's not what percentage of students. Anybody that does the work, anybody that follows our instructions will stay in our program until they're hired. So it should be everybody. Now, not everybody does the work. For example, I did have a student one time, and it really broke my heart. And they said, Mike, I haven't been hired. And I said, tell me. I said, I've never seen you in any of the classes. We run 3 classes a week, and I've never seen you. I said, tell me. I said, how are you watching the content? What are you doing? You haven't turned in your homework assignments either. And he said, I don't watch the content. He says, I put my phone on my pillow with my Apple earbuds, and while I'm sleeping, I listen to it. That's how I study. And I said, yes, that's not how you learn a big career. Come to class. And he never showed up. But if he wants to come back to class, we'd be honored to have this person, and we'd be honored to get him hired. So all of our students, as long as they do the work and they never quit, should get hired. We don't quit on our students until they get hired. We love our students, we care about our students, we operate as a family. And as long as it takes, you're in our program. You've got a year in the live classes. You've got more than enough time on the labs. Not that we actually do any tech work in our life anyway. I just have labs there because it's real cool to be able to tell an employer that you built your own cloud. When everybody else is like, I can fit an S3 bucket, and the employer's like, yeah, so did my 8-year-old daughter. You can say I designed and built my own cloud, which puts you leaps and bounds above. So we do that kind of stuff. But all of them get hired as long as they do the work, or should get hired.
From Pauline, there's a lot of programs out there. Are a lot of programs out there that do CI/CD, continuous integration, deployment with people, making them acquire certifications after certifications without any jobs. It's sad.
So, Pauline, I want to tell you how bad it is, and I want to tell you why we have to retrain everybody else's programs. You name a program that costs $5,000 to $15,000, we've retrained all their students. We also retrain all the Udemy students, and we train all the certification students as well. Several of the people that have courses on Udemy have asked me to train them for cloud architect jobs. I'm not joking. And they've been selling courses for a while. The reason these courses, Pauline, are crazy is because the people don't know. Cloud architects don't do CI/CD pipelines. Cloud architects don't code. Cloud architects don't play with Linux. Cloud architects don't play with Terraform. We don't touch any of that. I've been an architect for 25 years. You know the last time I touched technology? 25 years ago. That's not true. I did do a couple of labs in my house with some friends just for fun. But for the most part, for work, I've not touched the tech in 25 years. No, I've closed billion-dollar deals. I've designed architectures for many of the world's largest ISPs. I've designed the systems for some of the biggest banks in the entire world. I've designed most of the healthcare organizations in the US that are really big. I've consulted in their architectures. I've consulted in architectures in Australia, New Zealand, all over Asia, Central America, South America, many of the voice data and video systems in your home. I helped design them. But I was an architect, so we don't touch it. We design it, we present it, we sell it, I run business contests. It's a great job. No other job pays you twice as much as engineering, and you don't have to do any of the work. You're not coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning to go fix a code thing. When something breaks, you're not there trying to fix it. No, maybe you go and buy donuts for the team. Say, hey, everybody, how you doing? Here's some food. And maybe you buy them drinks at the end of the day, buy them some good scotch like some Macallan 25 or your corporate American Express card, but we don't touch the tech. So it's the best job ever. And Pauline, it's sad. Here's the simple fact. You can't teach a course that you've never had the job before. Here's the sad other fact, Pauline. Unless somebody is actually a principal architect, a distinguished architect, or a director of architecture, or a VP of architecture, they don't even know what an architect needs to know. I see people that have gotten an internship, and the next thing you know, they've got a big, giant YouTube channel, and people are listening to them. But they got fired from their job because they couldn't even complete their internship. But people listen to these people. So you got to look who your source is. Look for people, VPs, directors, distinguished architects, and principal architects, because they've already made it. And ask the successful people, how did you get to the top? You know, that's the biggest thing. So I had a cousin that was struggling, very good guy. And every one of his friends was either losing their house, an alcoholic, a drug addict. And he said to me, Mike, I can't get anywhere. I talked to all my friends and they're all in the same position. And I said to this person, I said, here. I said, tell me about your 5 friends, the 5 closest people. He was like, well, this one's in and out of rehab. This one drinks. This one keeps getting fired. This one's like, okay. I said, now let's try something. Let's take you out of these people and let me introduce you to a business executive, a physician, an attorney I know. Go spend some time with these people and ask them how they achieved it. 2 years later, got a $150,000 job. He owns his own house. He's got a new fiance. And that's the key. If you want to get sick, hang around with sick people. If you want to be a great architect, hang out with people that have been there, that have done it, that have already made it to the top. And that's kind of why I do these shows, because I made it to the top in 2 years. Not 15 years, not 20 years. Now, I'll give you my secret. When I got my first architect job, there were 2 things that you could have done. I could have done what the rest of my people did, which was get a bunch of certifications that would have ended in nothing. Or I did what I did, is I asked the VP of architecture, and I said, Dan, could you tell me what the perfect architects have? What is it the architects that are the best at their business do? What are the ones that you have to make distinguished architects and principal architects? Which ones move on to C-suite executive roles like the CIO, CTO? And he gave me a list. And I focused on that list. And you know what was never there? Certifications. They didn't even exist in his mind. They were leadership skills, they were sales skills, they are executive presence, communication skills, emotional intelligence skills, writing skills, executive writing skills, and design skills. So that's what I did. Only learned that. And then you know what I did? As I became a principal architect and above, then I started asking, SVPs and CEOs, what do you want? And chief information officers. They gave me their list and I did that. And again, I got promoted and promoted and promoted and promoted. So that's my recommendation for you. And that's why we're here. I'm here with my chief marketing officer, Alonzo, who's got 30 years experience in marketing along with his MBA. You often hear from Chris, who's my chief operating officer, again, had HR and corporate leadership experience for 15 years in addition to his MBA. And then there's me. I've done every architecture job you can imagine, from a technical architect job, network architect job, enterprise architect job, business architect job. I've done it all. And that's why we're here. So, Pauline, it is sad. I hope to see you in the webinar tomorrow.
From Diggleman for the CISSP, Mike, I see these programs saying 100% pass guaranteed. Are those any good? If not, what would you recommend?
Well, Diggleman, here's what's going to happen when you take one of these things. You will pass because they're going to give you the exact exam. Question for question, word for word. Now, if you get caught, your certification will be pulled and your name will be destroyed. But anything with a pass guarantee is basically providing illegal content. Now, every single day, someone says, Mike, I can get you certified in anything. Are you interested? I'm like, you don't know me. I don't care about certifications. I care about skills. In fact, Engelman, my manager, when I was at Cisco, one of the VPs asked me to move the Cisco Certified Internet Expert and the CISSP from my resume. He said, you've reached the executive architect level. You want to be seen as one of those techies, or you want to be seen as a lead? And I was like, elite. So I did. But I love the CISSP. I think it's a great architect, especially as you're moving in. Here's how I would do the CISSP. If you're on our course, you probably got 3/4 of it. I would buy the books directly from ISC Squared. I would read those books word for word, and I would get their practice test. And that way I would learn the material the right way from the authors of the exam. ISC is a very good security organization. And as I'd read those books, every time I saw a word that I didn't know in that book, I'd go look it up. Every time there was something that I didn't completely understand in that book, I would look it up from trusted sources, Information Week, Tech Republic, Tech Radar, the Internet Engineering Task Force, RFCs. And guess what? By the time I was done that one book, I'd probably have 5 books worth of notes. And not only could I pass that exam in my sleep like nothing, and I did, it was very in my sleep like nothing, but I'd actually know the material and I'd be good. So the key here to remember, Dingleman, is nobody hires anybody based on certification. They just don't. They don't care. They hire them on skills. Now, that doesn't mean certifications aren't good. They will get you the interview, but they won't get you hired. So most people cheat on these certifications. 99.6% pass rate guaranteed. They get a certification, they get an interview, and the hiring manager just escorts them out of the room. In fact, I used to keep a cookie jar in my room. I don't eat butter. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat flour. I'm a crazy health nut, you know? And I kept cookies because we ask people the stuff that's on their resume. If you've done a CISSP, I have expectations of you. And if you can't answer those questions, what is this? How does it work? Why I should use it? Have a cookie, have a cookie, have a cookie, or lie to me, have a cookie, because I don't want anybody wasting my time. And at least if somebody's stuffing their face with cookies, they're not talking, because I don't like when people lie to me. So focus on doing things honestly, ethically. There's no shortcuts. Imagine a doctor who used 100% pass guarantee to pass the USMLE exam. Now they're a physician. Now go ask them to do surgery. Go ask them to diagnose a cardiovascular problem. People will die every single day. So for me, I learn things long before I get a certification. And I do it the hard way. I do it the right way. I learn it and I remember it forever. So learn it right and you'll be good to go. I understand why you're asking the question. And it's not even a bad question, but I don't use anything with a pass guarantee. I want to do it for real. And what happens is you've got all these things with 100% pass guarantees. And now you've got things like AWS when they allow you to do free exam retakes. And Azure now is offering open book exams. And now as an employer, it's like everybody cheated through these exams and therefore they all have fake certifications. I don't care. So go do it. Go do it the right way. Develop expertise and you'll be great.
Dr. Remo, great. At the SC course, not sure what that is. I did that didn't even help us learn, practice a demo. The final was a demo and they passed everyone. What a joke. I binged like 6 hours of your content and I'm really impressed.
Yeah, and that's the saddest thing. Sales engineers do demos. Solution architects bring a sales engineer to do the demo. They don't have to do it themselves. They focus more on the business piece. But yeah, that's the problem. The whole job of the sales engineer or the solution architect is sales. Design it, present it, and sell it. Now, Remo, I bet you they didn't do enough presentation skills. I bet you they didn't teach you executive presence. I bet you they didn't teach you what a CEO wants versus a CIO versus a CTO, which is who you got to sell the stuff to in the first place. I'm sure they didn't work on the gravitas so that people can see you and see you as big and strong and powerful. I'm sure they didn't teach you how to build a business case to help show the customer that, look, you're going to go spend $200 million on this. This is what it's worth to your business in terms of the business problems that it solves. And that's really sad. Everybody we retrain, it's basically like they got hired by a 20-year-old, like the 20-year-old life coach that doesn't know anything about life yet because they haven't lived, that's now teaching people. And yes, there were a 20-year-old life coach reached out to me on LinkedIn to coach me on life. And I was very polite about it. And I said, well, have some life experience and come back to me in a few decades. techs you've actually lived and worked with other people that have lived. But, you know, it's there. And that's the thing. I'm so sorry you went through it. It upsets me every day. You know, Remo, I was retired. In my retirement, I was doing some private consulting, helping people getting hired in my retirement. It was fun. I retired a long time ago. And sure, I got bored and did a whole bunch of consulting on the side, but I was retired and it was great. And it wasn't until a friend whose kid was ready to graduate with a computer science degree said, or computer engineering, I'm sorry, said to me, Mike, you brought in a bunch of interns to my warehouse when you built a crypto mining data center, which was huge, but that's neither here nor there. And he said, can you make my son have the skills of your people? And I said, sure, Nick, happy to. So here's what I did. I bought the kid the 3 best-selling cloud courses. I told the father and the son I'd spend 2 to 4 hours with them every Friday. And 3 days later, the kid called me back. 2 days, 3 days, I can't remember. And he said, Mike, got a question for you. What's an EC2 instance? What's an S3 bucket? What's EBS? And I said, what do you mean? I bought you 3 courses. He said, well, I set up an S3 bucket. I configured an EC2 instance and mounted an EBS volume, but I don't know what they are. And I'm like, no, seriously, Nathan, tell me. And he's like, I don't know what they are. So at this point, I took a deep breath because I was getting frustrated. And I said, Nathan, we're going to do 2 things. I'm going to watch these videos. I said, and if I watch these videos and don't understand, and I'm in the same position as you, we're going to write a book on passing the AWS Solutions Architect Associate and Professional Exam and give it away for free. And we're even do a free AWS boot camp. I said, but if I find that you're lazy, well, maybe we're going to talk about that 2 to 4 hours I'm going to spend with you every Friday. Remo, I watched these videos in horror. It was like nobody even knew what any of this stuff was. And I was thinking, how can an architect design what they don't understand? And the answer was, of course they can. So I wanted to be sure, Remo. I then interviewed 1,000 people that were AWS certified. At least 150 of them passed the AWS Solutions Architect Professional. I think it was closer to 200. And I asked them basic architecture questions. Not a single one was able to answer anything. I mean, they didn't even know what an EC2 instance was, all except for 3 of them. They didn't know it was a virtual machine. They didn't understand how a virtual machine worked. I asked them, how do you size them? And they're like, oh, you just go to AWS and it says compute optimized and you pick one. And I said to them, what's the core performance per single core? What's the multi-core performance? How oversubscribed are these servers? What's the PCI rate? What's the memory frequency? What's going on? I was like, no, they don't tell you that. I'm like, then you could look at all these silly marketing numbers. You can throw them in the trash. You can find the thing with the right number of cores, the processors that you care about, and then you can test it out. Otherwise, you won't know. So we'd love to train you. I'd love to help you. And I'd love to help you go from landscape architect to cloud architect. Join us tomorrow. It's free. And for those of you that have questions, please ask them.
Victor, hi, Mike. Do you teach cybersecurity architecture in Go Cloud architecture classes? Do I need to start from IT support technician or cybersecurity analyst before learning to become a cybersecurity architect?
Well, Victor William, we can take Delroy Batt, who was my student. He was working on ambulances. And after our course, he got a job at CDW, a huge partner, as a cloud security architect. You don't need to have a background doing somebody else's job. So Victor William, I'd like to ask you this question. If you were going to hire an airplane pilot, would you care that they were a flight attendant first, or that they worked on the engines, or would you want them to go to the best flight school and know how to fly a plane? If you wanted to go to the doctor because you needed medical care, would you be concerned that someone once was a nursing assistant and then a nurse, or would you want someone that went to the best medical school and had the best skills and was the best doctor? See, I find no value. Now, Victor William, I'm working with 2 cloud engineers right now. One of them has over 10 years cloud engineering experience. And I have to retrain him to be an architect because analysts and engineers don't do anything related to what architects do. So if you learn somebody else's career, it's just going to keep you from getting to your goals. So no, you don't. Do I teach cybersecurity architecture? I can tell you 2 of the last 4 people that got hired at AWS presented their demilitarized zone for a web app, and they shut the interview down and said, well, clearly you guys know far more about security than we do. I think it's here now. Tell me, Mr. Whatever, what's your goals in your career? Let's talk about this. They shut the interview down because he proved that he was better than them. Victor, I have a student, Richard. He passed the CISSP, which is actually a relatively robust security exam, in about a month's worth of our training. And another student in Maryland, she passed it in 3 weeks in our training. And that's just from what we teach. So yeah, we've got a lot of cloud security architects coming out of our program. and they're getting great jobs. And we get deep, deep, deep into security. Very deep in security. So we teach you there. And no, you don't need to start at the bottom. You know, people lied to me when I was younger, and they gave me this nonsense. So I was practicing internal medicine, so I had a job, and it paid me good money. And my wife said, go work in tech. And all these people that had limited thinking and limited knowledge said, Mike, you got to do this help desk thing, this support thing, this network admin, this network analyst job before you get your job. And I said, why is learning someone else's career going to help me? And they said, you got to. So I left. I got my first job. It was network engineers 1 to 4. I was hired as a network engineer 4 with 0 experience. Guess what? 6 months later, I was the lead architect designing the systems on Wall Street for close to $200,000 a year over 2 decades ago, almost 25 years ago. And that's the key. You have to have the right skills, the right abilities. You don't have to start at the bottom. Doctors don't moonlight as nursing assistants. Airplane pilots don't work as flight attendants. And you're not going to learn the same skills anyway. And the other problem, Victor, is what's called being typecast. So I love watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. I love watching movies with Sylvester Stallone. Anything where there's action, there's aggression. I just love it. You know, that's the kind of movie I like to watch. Now, my wife makes me watch romantic comedies. So 90% of what I watch is not like Rambo or Rocky. But, you know, you got to live with your wife. I love my wife, and I like peace, happy wife, happy life. So, you know, there's that. But there's a reason nobody calls Sylvester Stallone for the next romantic comedy or Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're typecast. When I get people and they come to me as technicians, half of the work we need to do is to rebrand them so nobody thinks of them as a technician. So if you start low, not only will you start at a salary that's less, but you anchored yourself at a low salary, and it makes it much harder to come up into greater salaries. And people often won't take you seriously because they're going to be, that's the technician, not an architect. So that's why we start at the top. We train for the job we want, and we win. And if you think about it, now bring it back to sports. Simone Biles, this young fireball gymnast, she's amazing. She doesn't train to be a marathon runner. Usain Bolt, fastest man alive. Love watching this guy. He doesn't do marathon running either because it would hurt his distance running. It's a different sport. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. And the people that are pitchers in baseball, this game that I don't completely understand, they can never hit the ball because their job is to pitch. So learn your job, not somebody else's, and you will be good to go. Great questions. Please ask your questions in the chat box.
Back to Remo, Mike. I wish I would have found this course before I did the other one, but I didn't do the other course. I would never have found you guys. Sometimes you have to go back to go forward. Hashtag staying positive.
Remo, it's true. Let me tell you about what happened when I started my tech career. Now, tech training has come down in prices. And the reason it's come down in prices, for the most part, the technology can make things much cheaper. But on top of that, now you have people teaching classes that have never had the job. And when I was young and you took networking, it was taught by a networking expert with 15 years experience. But what I did is the following. I was working in medicine, and I love tech. And my wife says, go get a job in tech, make your passion your job. And I was thrilled about it. You know what I did? I called my local computer tech school, and they said, Mike, you need to have a Microsoft certified systems engineer. So I signed up for this 5-day, $5,000 boot camp. You know what? Nobody had an interest in me. So here, what do I do next? I called the same computer school. Mike, you need a Cisco certified network professional and a CCNA. I'm like, okay. So locked myself in a room, did the CCNA, took a 10-day, $11,000 CCNP boot camp. Now when I was done that, guess what? Nobody wanted to hire me. So then what did I do? And this is horrible, but it's true. I called another school. You need to be a Cisco certified design professional for what you want. So I got 2 more certifications, the Cisco certified design associate and the design professional. I sent out resumes, Remo, and they all got rejected. And then I got really lucky. I went to the gym that night. Now, I'm not that big these days, but in my youth, I was a pretty big guy. Now I'm about 215 pounds. I used to walk around about 240 pounds because I used to lift really heavy. And I was doing some 700-pound deadlifts at the gym. And my buddy Brian, this big, burly bodybuilder, comes over to me and he's like, Gibbs, how's your job search going? I said, I get rejected everywhere I apply. And he started laughing at me. And he said, Mike, why would you be applying for jobs? And I'm like, how else am I going to get one? And he handed me this business card of this guy, Drago. And he said, Drago's the best recruiter I know. So he said, Drago will get you in front of the hiring manager. You can plead your case to the hiring manager. Mike, I know you're a pretty sharp guy. You're going to get hired. So before I called Drago, I called a recruiter in California because I figured I'd never be moving out there. Too far away from my Greek family. They don't speak English. I got to translate. So I called a recruiter in California. He spent 45 minutes on the phone with me. Told me every skill that a person wanted in the perfect network engineer. And guess what? I had none of them. I had certifications, but I had none of them. So I called 49 more recruiters. In those days, you could talk to somebody. And I built myself a master list. I threw out the statistical anomalies. I ran a statistical analysis on it. And I said, okay, this is what I need to learn. I dedicated the next 6 months into learning those things. Poof! Got an incredible high-paying job. Senior network engineer was my first one. Moved up to lead architect in less than a few months. And then I moved over to Wall Street and designed some of the largest networks in the entire world. So that's the key. You can do it too. Unfortunately, a lot of us didn't get good advice. I was one of them too, and that's why I created our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. It's based upon my 25 plus years experience, my $300,000 education in order to do these skills. And yes, the 2 master's degrees plus the other degree plus about $100,000 of training that was paid for by my employers taught me how to do these jobs and do it well. And I teach it every day, pretty much at our cost, just to change the world. I was retired. I don't need to work, thankfully, because I have such a good career and I can dedicate it to getting people life-changing jobs. And I'd love to work with you. But please come to the conference, whether you're at the webinar tomorrow, whether you're a student or not. I want you to know what the skills are so you can get hired.
Back to Pauline, Mike. My take so far is skills over certifications, because I've seen people with lots of certifications who are jobless, but people with usable skills are actually employed.
100% of the time. Pauline, I have a rule. If somebody has more than 3 certifications on their resume, I won't even interview them. And you might ask why. So all certifications are really just entry level. Here's the name of something which you can't use with your clients anyway because it's a proprietary marketing name, and here's how to configure it. All of them. Even the CCIE, which is the hardest certification in the world. My number is 7417. But here's the key. It's all intro level stuff. So what happens is when people get 10 certifications, they get a certification in development, and then a certification in SysOps, which is the lowest paid tech career in the entire world. And then they get a certification in DevOps, which is a totally different career. And then an architecture certification. I see somebody that said, I'm going to be a football player. I'm going to be a nurse. I'm also going to be a sales rep. And oh, while I'm at it, I'm going to be a cat herder. And I'm like, if that's how the person spent their time in training, I don't want to talk to them. Now, if they came in there as a CCIE with a TOGAF, I'd say, oh, this person might actually have the knowledge to be a network architect. Let me talk to them. Because the CCIE is about 75,000 pages of reading to pass, compared to like some of these cloud certifications, which are like 500 pages. So you're there. But yes, I don't hire people on certifications. I've asked thousands of managers, do you care? They don't care. In fact, what they usually say is, Mike, I'm so sick and tired of paper certifications. I'm tired when I ask a question. Like if I had to ask Alonzo a networking question and he said, I know, I'm certified. I'm like, well, answer the question. He'd say, I know, I'm certified. Alonzo, how fast could you get out of my office? Now, Alonzo wouldn't do that. I'd ask Alonzo a question. He'd give me an answer and he'd wow me. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Skills, skills, skills. Skills over certifications, skills over degrees. Somebody's got too many certifications to me. They've set themselves up for a terrible career by focusing on all the junior level intro skills, which are never enough to get hired anyway. I'm glad you took that. Please come tomorrow.
So if you have any questions, we are here for you. We really want to, this is our office hours where we are here to break down, demystify, edify, and give you more of an understanding of what we do here at Go Cloud Careers, and how no matter what your background is, how we can segue you into becoming a competent and capable cloud architect. So again, no question is too simplistic, or don't feel like you don't know everything, because the part of being a cloud architect is that it's continuous learning, which is also a part of how we train everyone else. It's a continuous iterative process of solidifying these skills, because there's so much to learn. and it seems like it's a depreciating skill, but you just are going to fortify it with a tremendously supportive and awesome community. One of the things that I really love about what we do is that we have our Go Cloud Careers Slack channel or Slack community from people all over the world who come together and strengthen each other. Just like Mike always says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But with our community, everyone goes farther and they're more competent and capable. And what we train seems like 100% here. And we definitely hold everyone accountable for your success because the program works if you do. But once you go out there and you start talking about security, the layers, if you're talking about monolithic architecture, if you're talking about networking, if you're talking about all of these competencies, you're going to knock them so far off their feet. And you're just are going to think like, this is just what I know. But comparatively out there, you'd be surprised. So please bring your questions in. We're happy to answer them.
Yeah, and while we bring your questions in, I want to really talk about two things. One is all of you can get any job you want. The question is, do you have the right preparation and the right skills? Every last one of you. When I was younger, I wanted to practice internal medicine. Guess what? I did. I love tech more. Now, when my wife said, go work in tech, I said, that sounds smart. I love tech so much, I was paying, a third of my income buying tech toys just to play with them because I thought it was cool. I could now talk to people in my village in Greece in those days. And for me, that was just everything, and this networking thing. And my brother was playing this video game called Command and Conquer Red Alert. And I don't even like video games, but I was trying to get the latency down so I could play the game with him because since I'm technically my wife's brother, he's my best friend. The two of us are closer than you can possibly imagine. And that got me involved in networking so that I could play games with my brother just to do something with him because we had different jobs. And all of you can have any job you want. All of you. Alonzo came to us. Alonzo had done all these silly certifications and was treated and run through the mill. It was horrible. He came to us. We trained him. We got him hired. Now, if anybody knows me, they know Alonzo, they know exactly that we could and should be twin brothers. We think the same. We talk the same. We actually dress the same for the most part when we're not online. In fact, I met Alonzo's wife one day, and as she was talking, I closed my eyes, and I thought it was my wife, Lisa. I couldn't even believe it. Alonzo, what did you think when you met my wife?
It was uncanny.
Yeah, my wife and his wife were like the same, but the point is we got Alonzo hired. Now, I begged him to come back because you can't find people like an Alonzo out there. We're like brothers. And when you find people like Alonzo or Chris from my team, you hold on to them and you build your network with them and you all grow together. But, that's the thing. But all of you can get there. Just get the right training. Follow the plan. Don't just buy the training, do the training. Just, and never quit until you get there. 13 orthopedic surgeons told me I'd never walk again. Well, 7 hours a day of painful physical therapy for 8 years straight, but I walk. I don't walk far, but I walk. And for me, that's a big thing. And all of you can do it. Let's get to the next question. And please ask your questions if you have them.
Back to Pauline, Mike. I've attended 2 previous programs, but they left me with certifications. How does one become a Go Cloud Career student and at what cost?
So, Pauline, our goal is to basically charge as little as we need to get our people to the maximum results. We have 2 versions of the Cloud Architect program. Well, actually 3. The version that we recommend for 90% of the population is the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And it's normally $24.99. Now, coincidentally, the average cloud architect earns about $800 to $900 a day. So that's 3 days pay for the average cloud architect. Right now, with being 40% off, it is literally speaking $1,500, which is less than 2 days pay for the average cloud architect. Now, I do have a non-live version of this program. We are blessed as a company with some of the finest people you would ever meet from the African continent, from India, from Pakistan. We've got people that are so decent and so wonderful and so family oriented, but for them financially, our prices are a bit of a struggle. For example, Ivan, who worked for us, told us that when he was in Cameroon, he made $8.42 per day carrying big, heavy rocks. And, that breaks my heart. And I'm thrilled that we got him an incredible job at, at AWS. But the point is we have a non-live version of that class for half price, which on sale is $750. And that's all it'll take to get somebody hired. I recommend the live classes. And the live classes are very different because you're in a class, you're designing an architecture with the team, you're giving a presentation, me, Alonzo, Chris, we can coach you on that presentation. The non-live version is videos of the classes and the content is the same. And we did that for people in the developing world that they just couldn't afford our training, or it was the awkward times. Sometimes people in Asia tell us our times are hard for them. We understand it. We picked a time that worked for the US, the UK, most of Europe, and all of Africa, and the way we structured our times. Because we got North America, South America, Europe. I'm from England, which is not Europe for most of us, and of course Africa, and that covers us, and even the Middle East, that covers the majority of our people. But we still have people in India and Pakistan and Singapore and Hong Kong and Australia and New Zealand, and they're getting great jobs too. So, that's what it is. Our goal is we're straightforward, we're transparent. We just want to get you hired.
And also consider, Pauline, that 40% off as well. It's right there for the taking. This discount that we have is never usually this high. And the last time we've had it this high was almost a year ago. So we encourage everyone, if you're really interested in our development programs, please pursue us. Please sign up and enroll. The link is in there. I'm sure Tyrone has already added that in the chat, and really experience what it means to be a competent, capable cloud architect in our community. We definitely are ready to embrace you, and we're looking forward to working with you. From Remo, is there a certain pace we can go through the course?
Any pace that works for you, Remo. You're in our program until you're hired. Now, the more time you have to put into it, the faster time you'll be hired, but no rush. 80% of our students work full-time. I've got people, what's his name? Richard Afukar got hired by AWS in 3 weeks. Joe Millen got hired in less than 3 weeks by AWS as a senior solution architect. Delroy Batt had a unique path. He was working on ambulances prior to us. He took our course, and within a month, he got a security engineering job. He stayed in the program, and about a year into it, he got his first cloud security architect job, but all that came from us. He took some $8,000 cybersecurity boot camp before us, which taught him nothing, but we got him, we trained him, we got him hired. He'd interviewed at a lot of places, and he's awesome. Delroy is great. I mean, I had a security question. Sometimes I ask Delroy, hey, I want you to do a vulnerability scan of my house. He's awesome at this stuff. He's got a lot of expertise. He's awesome. But, go through at any pace that's good for you. And, everybody's different. When I did my CCIE, I read 1,000 pages a day and remembered it all. Now, with the CEO brain, where I get like 10,000 messages a day, and I only have 5 minutes here and there, that would never happen. But I still learn, I still read, and I just do it at a smaller pace. So whatever time works for you. 700 hours. If you can dedicate 100 hours a week, great. You'll get those skills pretty quickly. You can dedicate 5 hours a week, great. It's going to take you longer. 10 hours a week, even faster. So just put the time, the effort in, and you'll do great.
From Valerie, it's good to see you, buddy. How is your program different from all the other boot camps out there?
Valerie, great question. Valerie is an incredible cloud architect. I know the guy, and he's one of our students, and he's done well. But Valerie, it's a good question. Here's why our program is different. We are the only people teaching cloud architecture out there. And what I mean is this. The other boot camps are teaching cloud administration. Here's the name of a service. Here's how to configure it. Here's how to write a Python script. Here's how to do it. Here's how to write a Bash script. Here's how to write a Terraform script. Here's how to write a Windows PowerShell script. Here's how to add a user in the AWS console. Now, Valerie, do you know what percentage, do you know what architects do? None of that. None of that. That's not what we do. So the architect designs a solution, presents the solution, and sells the solution without ever touching the technology. So what skills are here, and why do we teach them? Well, first, the way we design an architecture is as follows. I ask the client, what's the goal for your business? What's the vision of your business? Where do you want to be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and 20 years from now? If I don't know where the business wants to go, I can't design anything. And every architecture that's designed without that, it's like flipping a coin. Is it going to work? Now, 50% of all cloud architectures are considered abject failures. What do they mean by an abject failure? Not only does it not help the business, it hurts the business more before than when they went on the cloud. So, but that's because we got people reading a well-architected framework that don't know which problems are solved. They're just clicking a bunch of stuff. So first, we have to focus on the vision of the business. Next, we have to map out how the business works. How does the sales process work? How does the marketing process work? What's the customer journey? And then we have to figure out what we want it to be in the future. Then we've got to look at the way that organization processes data. We got to look at their current technology. And we design a new technology solution back to the customer. Now we've got to document the solution. We've got to present this back to the customer. We've got to build a business case to show the customer that, hey, Mike, your $1.1 billion solution is going to develop $3 billion of business value. Because Valerie, I'll tell you, nobody wakes up and says, how can I spend $1 billion on tech? So we have to do that. Now we have to give presentations. Not only can you not get a cloud architect job without delivering a presentation as part of your interview, but our job, we present. Now we also sell. Now we also lead. Now we have to teach all those programs, all that, because you won't be horrible without it, and nobody else does. Now, I've been studying the interview for over 25 years now, and I've never been on an interview where I didn't get hired. And in 2 of the 5 jobs that I've taken over the past 25 years, I got hired for a better job than the one I applied for based upon my interview. So we teach that stuff too. Now, of course, the other stuff is teaching people how to build. Now, let's say I wanted to train an architect to design a hotel like the Burj Al Arab in Dubai, beautiful place, or the Emirates Tower in Dubai, or the Intercontinental in San Francisco. It used to be a nice hotel. I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know. In order to design that hotel, I need a different set of skills than the construction workers build it. So we teach the design or the architecture phase while everybody else is teaching it. Now, the rest of the people teach AWS services. We teach how these things work, all those networking, all those data center, all those cloud concepts. And then we teach everything on how to design it on multi-cloud. And why does this matter? Because 98% of customers are different clouds. And then we prepare our people for the interview. We teach them how to negotiate a higher salary. What we're doing is we're taking the main elements of a master's in business, which are critical to the architect, and we're adding them. We're adding those executive things that are not in an MBA program. And then we're teaching the network, the data center, and the cloud all at the fundamental level. And then we design everything the way the customers would do. Not just to design tech for the purpose of tech, to design tech for the business. And that's why people with no experience are getting hired at Amazon. That's why we've got clients that work now at Apple, another great company to work for. They're hired by Cisco. They're hired by Google. They're hired by IBM. They're hired by Palo Alto. They're hired by PricewaterhouseCoopers, Accenture, Deloitte, KPMG, Capgemini, big banks, because they love what we do. Now, it's interesting. Amazon sent a director of theirs to our course to tell our students why he loved them so much. Another cloud company sent one of their VPs of HR because they wanted to hire so many of our students. And it's because of all the work we do in the corporate world. People know that a Go Cloud Careers architect is a rock solid architect. So thanks for that question, Valerie.
From Sathish, what should one do who's interested to learn the cloud but they don't have the money? I know this might be a silly question, not at all.
Well, Satish, you've got to look at it 2 things. One is I financed my education. Alonzo, what did your education cost you?
Over 150.
Over 150. Mine cost over 300. Satish, I didn't have any of this money, so I took loans. The reality is, without the proper education, you will struggle financially for the rest of your life. So the only way out of that for the most of us, and I was poor as can be, was education, and I knew that, so I financed it. Now, Satish, if you can't arrange financing, you're going to have to struggle and understand that you're going to have to get a much lower job, a much lower paying job. So instead of getting a job that would pay $150,000 a year, you might have to get a job that pays $50,000 a year, and then get the training to get a good job. Now, I can tell you this, you can't learn architecture on your own. You just can't. Nobody's going to, because you have to understand the design elements. And other people will tell you, just read engineering blogs about how somebody else designed it. That will turn you into a dangerous architect, and here's the reason why. You have to understand the why to understand the architecture. And when it posts engineering blogs, you're not going to see it. So you can't learn it that way. You have to be taught. But you could learn the code to teach on your own. That's a very easy skill to learn. You could learn cloud administration easily on your own. You could potentially learn cloud engineering on your own. And as long as you're comfortable with those jobs, those can be self-studied. You can learn to write a Python script on your own. It's nothing. You could also do it with ChatGPT. Now, Satish, I'm also going to tell you this. All those low-paying jobs are going away. I'd say the companies, and here's the reason they're going away. An architect meets with you. An architect sells. An architect presents. An architect leads a team. They build a business case. That is a face-to-face, human-to-human interaction, which artificial intelligence can't do. For fun, I made a video, the audio came back, and one of my people that doesn't know how to code wrote a Python script in ChatGPT, and it fixed the audio in my video. I can write a Terraform script to launch 1,000 virtual machines in a minute for free with ChatGPT. I don't even need to know anything. It's just to tell it what I want it to do. So long-term, understand programming careers, I think, are predominantly dead. Cloud engineering careers are dead. We had a cloud engineering program, and I stopped selling it. That should tell you something. We have people begging us every day for a cloud engineering program, and we stopped selling it. I wouldn't sell a program where I thought people would pay us and in the end have a career that was dying. But you probably have about 3 to 5 years left on those engineering careers, and you could teach yourself that. And when you teach yourself that, then you could actually go find a good training program that's going to be there. But who earns $237,000 a year? And if you're in a different part of the world, it's the same salary. It's just going to be adjusted for inflation. For example, $100,000 in the US is equivalent to $28,000 in India, for example. Same amount of money, but after you adjust the things for inflation. And for example, like in Cameroon, I've got people that can buy a house for $24,000. In Florida, to buy a house, it's $500,000. Same house, not different in sizes. It's just, cost of living changes. So I would say, you could think about that. You could try a cloud admin role, do it for a little while, get some training, get some rebranding training, and then go learn the career that you desire. That's the option, but you can't get a big paying career. My education was $300,000. Everybody on my team paid at least $150,000. And that's why we're talking about jobs that pay $200,000 to $500,000. And that's why we're able to get people these jobs, because we've been there, we've done it, we've already succeeded. But that's what I would say. If you're looking to do that, I would say just go for some basic junior level engineering something, or a systems administration thing that you can teach yourself on your own. And then when you get the money, go save that money, get the education to do something right. Because you just can't get there. When I was at Temple University, and I'll tell you how poor I was, Satish. I couldn't afford college. And I wasn't smart enough to realize that I could just get a loan at the time, because I was terrified of debt. So here's what I did. I went to school from 7 to 3. I worked 3:30 to 11 at the fire station as a paramedic. Then I worked 11 to 7, and I did that 5 days a week. And on my Saturdays and Sundays, I'm not joking, I worked 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. It was supposed to be 7, but I always got out a half an hour late. So that was basically 100 hours a week that I actually worked. I got 2 to 3 hours of sleep per day. And in the end, I was earning $8.50 as a paramedic. I got my first job in tech, and it paid me almost $50 an hour. And it was like, you know what? I could have just skated through college, had life easy, and paid this loan. In the end, I did take about $40,000 of debt to build my networking career. And I also took half of an MBA program at Drexel. I was up to $87,000 in debt, and I paid it back in my first year of work with the dollars that I got from my good tech job. So it takes money to invest in education. Education is life-changing if it's a good education. I wish I had a cheaper option. We run our program at our cost. But there was a poster at Temple University when I went there. And it was all over the world. And every day I'd get there and I got 2 hours of sleep. My eyes were barely open. My back hurt from lifting heavy people up and down the stairs with the ambulances and ripping doors off cars. And the sign said, if you think education is expensive, wait till you try ignorance. And every day I'd see that sign and I realized I worked 16 hours a day and I couldn't even afford food half of the time. I used to eat cans of tuna and literally eat them straight out of the can and put a little olive oil in it, because that's all I could afford at the time, because I had literally nothing and I was working that hard to pay my tuition at a good university. In the end, All I really needed to do was take loans and poof, get to the top and not kill myself. So I invest in education. I'm a believer. I got 2.5 master's degrees. I think that explains something. And I knew that wasn't enough, and I did a lot. So that's how I get to my goals. I get good education, but I wish I had a better answer, but you got to learn somehow.
Back to Remo. Where in the sales cycle does the architect fall into after the account executive confirms that the customer wants to see the solution?
Far beyond that, Remo. So here's the thing. Mike and Alonzo, go meet with this client. Some internal sales rep sets up a meeting. Alonzo and I go to the client long before they even know what they want. Take the client to lunch, build a relationship, hang out and schmooze. Come back a week later, come back another week later. Try to convince the customer of all the technologies they need in their business. And then the customer will introduce something called the request for proposal. And if we architect to be better for our business than our competition's business. And if we're really good sales reps, we can kick that whole RFI, RFP, RFQ thing out of the way. And then we're done that, we sell it and we move on. So we are there from the first meeting as architects. So I've worked on clients that took 2 years to close, Remo. I'm not joking. I've worked on other ones that we could close in a week, but from the very beginning. Just like being a landscape architect. If you had a client that says, I'm interested, you'd be in that first meeting and you'd be trying to sell it, assuming you're doing direct sales and you don't work under someone else. Just like that. First meeting.
So we're going to go to Pauline. And I believe she says, I'm currently ending a program where we spend 80% of the time configuring. And I think that's more, she's tired of configuring and she wants to, I'm trying to figure that out. I'm currently ending a program where we spend 80% of the time configuring, and I'm sick and tired of configuring. I think it's more important to know what, why, and when the services and how to recommend them.
Pauline, we don't configure. That's not our job. I wouldn't care if you knew how to configure or not. That's meaningless to me. And if you spent your time learning to configure, I'd be worried that you don't have the real architect skills. I really would. Because where you spend your time is there. I don't want to configure. I don't want to be dealing with stuff that works and doesn't work. That's why I became an architect. And that's the problem. There's a boot camp that actually stole our name with the Youth Mastery, and they're teaching all this systems administration and Linux and Python. And the people come out and they don't have any skills for anything. It's sad to me. All these people are teaching configuring. But it's not just knowing the what and the why. It's which business problem do we have and what do we need to solve it? When it comes to architecture, what happens when I put this thing? How does that affect across the entire world? So Remo, so Pauline, it's like throwing a big stone into a lake. Let's say you had a big stone, it was hefty, and you popped it in the lake. When you pop it in the lake, you notice when the stone hits the water, first you get a splash, and then you get these ripples and ripples and ripples. That's like architecture. When you put something in, what does it do? So, I would ask an architect, you configure BGP on a router in Japan, and that's eBGP, and you've got iBGP running on your systems. What happens to the rest of your systems? What could happen if you put a IP route 0.0.000 in BGP, and then you put redistribute static? How will that affect the people that are selling in South America? How will that affect your team in Cape Town? How will that affect your team in the Cayman Islands? How will that affect the sales rep in New Jersey? That's architecture. Now, I care if you know, and if I say, look, I'm an airline and our fuel costs are high, which is an architecture problem, I might want you to think of, well, what can we do? Well, first we have to understand how airlines purchase fuel contracts. Now, how can we better predict pricing? Can we take historical data? Can we take news data? Can we mine that with artificial intelligence and get a recommended buy time? Sure we can. So that's architecture. It is the what is the tech, how does the tech work, why do we use it, and how do we integrate it? It has zero to do with configurations. So I agree with you 100%.
From Adam, from installing and implementing software as a solution, software for a bank's customers. In response to the interview question regarding what a solution architect should know about this is this in general.
Well, ADAC, if you get asked this, it's a trick question. And here's why it's a trick question. If I asked you, let me give you a question. If I asked you, do you cook a chicken at 1,000 degrees or 5,000 degrees? You'd say, if you knew better, you'd say no. If I said, Alonzo, as a solution architect, how would you install something? I would expect Alonzo to say, well, I'm a solution architect, I don't install things. Now, what I would do is I would go to the engineering team that's going to do so. It's kind of like when I see a LinkedIn profile that says cloud engineer, pipe, cloud architect in the top. I know not to interview that person. I know not to hire that person, and here's why. If they don't know the difference between an engineer and an architect, they can't work. How am I going to hire somebody that doesn't know the difference? And that's the secret. So we ask trick questions intentionally. One of the biggest questions was what's the multicast address of an used by OSPF? Lots of us ask this. Why? Because if someone passed a CCNA, it's 224.0.0.5. Yeah, and if they knew something about networking, they'd say, well, are you talking about all SPF routers or all DR other routers? Because all SPF routers is 224.0.0.5. All designated routers and backup designated routers 224.0.0.6. So which are you looking for? That's nice to meet you, Alonzo. You were pretty solid. Now let's talk. So it's that. So that would be the answer. But I would say it's a SaaS application. And in many cases, the other part of this is a SaaS application you generally don't install. It's web browser based. So they'd want you to know that as well. Microsoft Office 365 is SaaS. You can do it in a browser. Google is a SaaS. So that they could also be wanting to know if you know that SaaS isn't something you typically have to install at all. It's a trick question in both ways.
Yeah, answer your question. We're here for you. If you got any questions, we'd love to answer them.
And if not, I'm going to go talk to the press a little earlier than where I'll be able to prep my press discussion. Alonzo will go back to all the great things that he does for our students, but we're here for a few minutes if you need us. Otherwise, it's back to work for us. So if you've got any questions, ask it now. Going. Okay, well, it was an honor to spend the afternoon with you all. I hope you guys learned something. I hope we were able to show you that you can achieve anything that you want anywhere in the world and anytime. There's a possibility that our website's down, just to let you guys know. We're having some DNS issues. Then again, parts of Microsoft 365 are down in parts of the country. Netflix has been down. There's something going on with internet routing today, but we're here. We're around. And it might be working perfectly. We're getting about 50% of the people that can reach us and 50% that cannot. So remind everybody, we have a 40% off Cyber Week sale this week. We almost never go to this price. Take advantage of it while you can. If you want to come to the webinar tomorrow on how to get your first cloud architect job, please do so. We'll see you there. And please download the completely free guide on how to get your first cloud architect job. So nice spending the day with you. We'll see you soon. Take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.